Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for joining me. My name is Jeremy Love, immigration attorney at the Love Law Firm here in Hoover, Alabama. I want to say thank you for joining me to talk a little bit about immigration today. As we mentioned before, I'm going to talk a little bit about DACA and TPS, a little bit of updates on those two immigration statuses, as well as a couple things to know about ICE and some of the enforcement measures that are going on right now, and a little bit about Know Your Rights. Again, thank you for joining me today. There has been a lot going on in Alabama, with Alabama taking center stage in news yesterday, especially last night with the elections for Alabama's center that's going to be in Washington in January. So a lot going on with that, a lot of excitement around here and a lot of exposure. So it's been exciting for me to see all that. And so there's also been a lot of immigration news. Want to wish my Jewish friends happy Hanukkah today as well. And so we're going to dive right into it. So first of all, as you know, DACA has been slowly winding down since September. So there are people whose DACAs have been who haven't been able to renew or weren't able to file who previously were eligible. And starting March 5th, we're going to have the first round of DACAs that previously had DACA and were doing everything they could. They weren't able to renew because they were told that that DACA was going to be ending. So just to give you a little idea on that, right now I think it's somewhere around 12,000 people who had DACA previously haven't been able to obtain DACA, to renew their DACA, and we're going to see that continue starting March 5th. Especially, people's DACA is going to start expiring and won't have the opportunity to renew. So I'll talk a little bit more about options for people who have DACA. I'm also going to talk a little about TPS right now. I'll give you a little update on TPS. This was just recently, about a month ago, there was an announcement. I talked about a little bit of this briefly about a month ago. So if you haven't seen that video with me and my son Jacob, we did it at home because he was homesick. It's pretty hilarious, so watch at least the first 2 minutes of that. I'm sorry he's not with me today. It'd be a lot funnier if he were, but I'm in the office today, so it's not going to be quite as exciting, but I'll try to get to the information, and we'll be talking just about 10 minutes talking about this. Y también voy a hacer esta charla en español como 15 minutos. Si puedes esperar un ratito, voy a hablar sobre TPS, DACA, las opciones y también lo que está pasando con ICE, con inmigrantes aquí en Alabama y otras partes también. Well, going back into TPS, like I mentioned, so the announcement recently stated that TPS for both Nicaragua and Haiti will be ending. For Haiti, that TPS protection, and TPS is temporary protected status, is for those it's for those who have been in the U.S. for a certain period of time that are from certain countries that are designated with TPS, which right now is Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Haiti, Sudan, South Sudan, Nepal, Somalia, Syria, and Yemen. If they are from those countries and have been here since the designation date, and in some cases it's more than 10 years, you can apply for TPS, get a work permit, and protection from deportation. Well, the ones that'll be ending, and I misspoke a minute ago, but are Nicaragua, which will end in January 2019, TPS protected status. Those with TPS from Nicaragua can continue to work, live without fear of deportation. If yours expiring, you can renew. If you lose a work permit, you can file for a new work permit, as you won't be able to renew after January 2019. As well as another one that ended recently, or that was announced it's ending, is Sudan. And Sudan was extended to November 2018, and so people from Sudan won't be able to renew TPS after that date. There was another one, South Sudan was extended till May of 2019, and Honduras, that was a big one, was extended to July 5th of 2018. So you're from Honduras, have TPS, you continue to work until July 5th. We'll see what happens after that. I assume we'll be extended at least one more time, but they may say prior to July, we're extending it, but it's going to be ending a certain date, whether it be 2019 or something like that. So if you're from Honduras, that's something to watch. And there are 57,000 people in the U.S. who have TPS from Honduras, so it's a big group. And I know a lot of people have been looking at at Honduras as well as places like El Salvador. There are 200,000 people in the U.S. with TPS from El Salvador who are watching this very, very closely because El Salvador TPS right now goes until March 9th, 2018. I assume it'll be extended at least one more time, but we don't know if it's going to be extended for another 18-month period or if they're just going to keep continuing it as there is right now. So there's a number of other ones that are coming up for expiration that we'll see early next year. Haiti was one that has not expired, but sorry, my light went out. Has not expired, but it's possible that it could. It may not be continued much past January 2018. We'll see what happens, but that's where we are right now, and just wanted to update you a little bit on TPS. Other than that, as I mentioned, what I recommend doing right now is getting to know what your options are as far as people with DACA, people with TPS, other than trying to continue your status until it expires, or waiting for something like a DREAM Act, which right now we don't know what's going to happen. So I'd like to think positively and affirmatively and try to do something that would be able to get you status, even with the possibility of that ending in the future. So one of the things I want to discuss is family-based options. Anyone who has DACA or has TPS who's married to a U.S. citizen, for example, it's possible that you may be able to adjust your status, become a permanent resident through your U.S. citizen spouse. So that's something to discuss, especially if you came in the U.S. with a visa and you're married to a U.S. citizen, then in most cases you'd be able to adjust your status to become a permanent resident here in the U.S. with certain exceptions, but that's important to know. Even if you came in without a visa, in certain cases you can do a waiver here in the U.S. and most of the process is done here prior to an interview in your country of birth. So that's a possibility as well. So that's something that's really important to talk to an immigration attorney to discuss whether or not you have an option going forward to adjust your status through a family member. I get a lot of questions about people who, for example, are here on TPS from El Salvador, Honduras, other countries, who have U.S. citizen children. And they want to know if they can become permanent resident through their U.S. citizen children. In some cases you can. It's important to know that a child, a son or daughter, has to be at least 21 to file a petition for a parent. And so if you have a child who's a U.S. citizen and they're at least 21 years of age, yes, it's possible they can file for you. The issue is if you came in the U.S. without a visa, then you, in most cases, have to request a waiver. And a child is not a qualifying relative for a waiver. So you have to also have a U.S. citizen parent or spouse or permanent resident who you can use in order to get a waiver if you can show extreme hardship on that person if you can't stay in the U.S. This is really complicated stuff, and we don't have to get into all the details. But really what I want to recommend is talking to a qualified, experienced immigration attorney about your case to see the options you have going forward. Again, my name is Jeremy Love here in Hoover, Alabama. It's my pleasure to be with you today talking about immigration. I only handle immigration cases here in my office in Hoover, and it's a pleasure to be with you today. We've been talking a little bit about DACA and TPS, what's the status with those, as well as options going forward. Now, I mentioned family-based options. There are some other options that you could speak with an immigration attorney about to see if you may qualify. And so definitely give me a call. The number is 205-323-8727 to discuss whether or not you have an option going forward to become a permanent resident or some other type of status. I also want to mention that anyone who doesn't have an option, family-based or otherwise, it's very important to learn your rights so that you can protect yourself to wait for an immigration reform or a DREAM Act or something that would provide a more permanent solution. So I have on my website, as well as here in the office, a Know Your Rights guide that has a lot of great information in here about your rights at home and the workplace, how to find an attorney, as well as things you should do to prepare yourself just in case you or a loved one is detained by immigration, by ICE. So I think it's very helpful to learn that kind of information, to know, for example, if someone's knocking on your door and they say they're an ICE agent, you don't have to open the door and let them in. Even if they say they're there to see John Smith and you open the door to say, hey, John Smith isn't here, then they'll start asking questions about you and everyone else they see. We've also seen in some cases where ICE will use false statements. They will misrepresent themselves and possibly who they are in order to gain admission into your home. I've seen them posing as other type of government employees, hiding the fact that they are part of immigration and customs enforcement, and trying to hide the fact that they're coming in to find out information in order to deport someone, because that's what their goal is. So it's very important to know that not everything they say is exactly the way it is, and you have rights, and you have the right to an attorney before you answer any questions, before you let anyone in the door. So keep your door closed is my recommendation. One other thing I wanted to mention is that this is important lately, is that we've seen some different parts of immigration that are cooperating more than they used to. So as we know, immigration law really hasn't changed in the Trump administration, but there are ways that those policies are being interpreted that are different. Some people have referred to that as a virtual wall. So it's kind of a way to make it more difficult for someone to go through the immigration process without actually having to enact any different policies that have to go through Congress, or to actually build a border wall. So that's sometimes referred to as a virtual wall that makes it more difficult, more hoops to jump through. One idea is having more extreme vetting, if you will, having more immigration interviews that are being required, which is creating more of a backlog, both with immigration offices as well as immigration court. So that's something to know as well, that I wanted to mention. And so that's why it's always really important before filing an application with immigration that you know you're eligible for it, because there's always exists the possibility that that information you send could end up in the wrong hands. We've seen some instances where someone is denied for an immigration benefit, that information could be shared with ICE. It's something that's still kind of, we're not sure how it's going to go, but that's something I just wanted to mention. In the past, that's only been people who have serious criminal records, or there's fraud in the application. But it's always important to be careful with the information and not file for a benefit that you may not be eligible for. So I'm going to check real quick to see if I have any questions. And otra vez voy a empezar esta charla también en español en momento. Me llamo Jeremy Love, abogado de inmigración. I just want to say again that I'll be back with the Spanish version in just a few minutes. I'll just check if you have any questions. If anybody has any questions, feel free to contact me. Email address is jeremy@loveimmigration.com. Phone number here is 205-323-8727. Just to let you know, I will be, my office is here in Hoover, just south of Birmingham, but I will be in Huntsville soon, just to give you an idea. If you are in the Huntsville area, I do plan to be up there in January. The date of that appointment day that we're going to be doing, I'm just double checking my date here. I believe it's, January 10th, I'll be up in Huntsville. So give us a call, 205-323-8727, and I'll schedule an appointment with you soon. Thank you so much for joining me today. Feel free to shoot me any questions you have, either by email or through Facebook. And I look forward to talking with you again soon. Thank you. Take care.